Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to yet another video here today. And you're wondering, why am I doing a second video today? Well, we actually have some pretty big updates on now confirmed PTC26L here. And the National Hurricane Center has their cone and timing out. They predict a Category 2 hurricane making landfall for eastern Louisiana. So it's really far out, but they're already showing a U.S. landfall around the Louisiana and Mississippi area. Obviously, that could very well change, but that's what we have so far. Hurricane watches are now in effect for portions of western Cuba and tropical storm warnings. So if you're in western Cuba, you guys are definitely going to expect some impacts. This could very well possibly make a landfall for western Cuba as a tropical storm or a very strong tropical storm. And then we're going to briefly talk about tropical storm Gamma. And also, it seems that there's a trend that is getting that also aiming for Louisiana. So our two storms heading for the Gulf Coast by the next week or so. That's exactly what we'll be talking in this video. But before we get in the video, please subscribe if you're new, hit the like button and notification icon. But without further ado, let's get into this video. So here's looking out the National Hurricane Center. As you do see, there we got PTC26. As you do see, it has 35 miles an hour. So it is a PTC here. And it's at 1,007 millibars and moving west-northwest at 10 miles an hour. So basically what they're expecting is it possibly go like somewhat like that. Something like that. Kind of something what Marco was supposed to do. And as you do see there's tropical storm Gamma still at 60 miles an hour. It's actually stationary. It has stalls. So that's actually very, very big threat for portions of the Yucatan Peninsula, including Cancun, because that's going to bring in extreme amounts of rain here. It's actually nearly stationary. It's basically moving at 0 miles an hour. It's stalling over off the coast of Mexico, and that is going to bring in a ton of rain for Mexico and western Cuba, and that is not good, because if we have a tropical storm that will move in the almost exact same area and going to bring in even more rain, that is going to bring in some big threats for flooding. And it has actually gone up 1 millibar, so it seems that it's trying to, now that it's stationary and the low pressure is interrupting the land still, most likely that it's going to maybe weaken a tad. But 80% chance for the next 48 hours and 5 days, and it could very well be a tropical storm as early as tomorrow. Tropical storm Delta, and then National Hurricane Center shows a Hurricane Delta Category 2 hitting Louisiana and Mississippi. That's exactly what the National Hurricane Center has here. So definitely concern for potential U.S. impacts. Also, National Hurricane Center and models possibly getting this to maybe loop back and hit Louisiana around the same time frame as Delta will hit Louisiana. So are we looking at a similarity between what we're seeing with Marco and what we saw with the major hurricane, obviously, that hit Louisiana there? I mean, is there a similarity there that we're seeing with those two storms that were supposed to hit Louisiana earlier, I believe last month? And is there a similarity here that two storms also expected to hit the same state around the same general area? But obviously that didn't work out last month. It was expected to happen, but did not happen. Obviously, that did not happen. But could it happen in this case? I mean, it's definitely a concern. Rising concerns definitely for a lot of the Gulf Coast. I mean, I definitely put these areas in concern here for either of these two storms. Obviously, seeing that if Delta's going to be more of an eastern coast threat or eastern Gulf threat, and seeing that as Gamma could possibly be a central Gulf threat. So definitely watching out for the Gulf and U.S. coast for the next week or so. So here is the cone for the National Hurricane Center. As you do see, we do have tropical storm warnings for some islands. I'm not exactly sure what they are, like what country, but we do have 2 islands there. I believe they're probably most likely part, I don't know if they're part of Jamaica or Cuba, if they're their own country. That I do not know. But we do have tropical storm warnings out there for some islands out there that are between Cuba and Jamaica there. It's expected to go over those areas and around 2 a.m. Tuesday as a tropical storm and possibly then hit Cuba, the far western area. So going to possibly see some impacts for Havana. We do have hurricane watches for Havana and for much of the western Cuba area coast and much of inland Cuba as well. in the western inland Cuba area, of course. And then we have tropical storm watches out there. Tropical storm watches a bit further inland for Cuba there. But as you do see, National Hurricane Center does expect it to possibly maybe make landfall as a very strong tropical storm, if not borderline hurricane, because it does come out of Cuba as a hurricane. So could it actually strengthen to a hurricane once actually making the direct landfall? Or will it make landfall as a borderline hurricane and tropical storm? That's exactly what we're watching. I mean, that's definitely likely, because if there's some very warm waters, or actually the warmest waters in the western Atlantic are actually in this region, and the western Caribbean with the 30 degrees Celsius, and then expected to go a bit further west-northwest, and then go due north and make landfall up there into the eastern Louisiana, and possibly around Friday evening, most likely Friday night. So that's definitely not too close from now, but that's exactly what the National Hurricane Center is showing. So like I said earlier this morning, definitely see that there's a U.S. threat for the Gulf Coast for 92L, now 26L, PTC 26L. And I mean, this is what the National Hurricane Center is showing, possibly a landfall for the eastern Louisiana area. But obviously, Sally also showed that. Sally ended up hitting Alabama/Florida border. So will this also trend more east, or will it trend more west, or will it actually happen the way the National Hurricane Center actually has it here? Let's check out what we have with PTC at 5 o'clock, actually what exactly the National Hurricane Center is showing. They're showing it, like I said, Category 2 up to 100 miles an hour. It's at 35 miles an hour right now. Expected to be possibly a tropical storm by tomorrow, of course, and then coming out of Cuba at 80 miles an hour. So it does seem like this could very well be a hurricane landfall for Cuba here. For the western Cuba area, that'll be the first in a few years, I believe. And then going to possibly really strengthen it to 90, then 100 miles an hour, and possibly taking aim for areas of New Orleans, the biggest city, obviously Morgan City, Biloxi, even Mobile. As you do see, this kind of comes pretty large from Pensacola up to the Beaumont area, and up to the Lake Charles area, right where the Texas border is. So that's pretty large area right there, as you can kind of tell. So definitely from Florida, really Alabama, to the Texas border, Louisiana, they're at the cone threat for a landfall from soon to possibly be, or based on the National Hurricane Center, Hurricane Delta. So here's a look now at the potential tropical cyclone 26 model track guidance. As you see, the majority showing this not making a landfall for Jamaica. This definitely won't make a landfall in Jamaica. So if you're in Jamaica, you are fine. Only going to get maybe some gusty winds, maybe 20 miles an hour gust, and also possibly some pretty heavy rain. So as you do see, it's kind of self-explanatory. This could very well just going to go kind of west-northwest up to the point where it hits Cuba. It's gonna, like I said, it's going to hit the far western part of Cuba, not like way far inland like that. I mean, it's going to make a landfall most likely for the far western tip there, so outside of Havana. So to kind of go straight west-northwest, and then it starts taking that northern turn there, and that's where it's taking it for the eastern Louisiana area, and including Mississippi as well. So all it takes is a little turn more to the east, and it's going to very well hit areas where Sally hit, or just going to kind of be a little bit weaker and taking a turn more kind of westward trend and hit Lake Charles and those general areas there. But this is kind of what we have so far cone-wise. This is kind of what we have right there at cone for these tracks. And then basically this is where we have landfall for as of right now. Eastern Louisiana, or most likely Mississippi there. That's kind of the top trending states as of what we have right now. The intensity guidance we do have that's possibly getting to, or computer models get this to possibly being a tropical storm by the next 12 hours, but the majority in the next 24 hours here. And then a few are getting this to Category 1, and a decent amount are getting this to Category 2. Actually, we have a shocking amount getting this to Category 2 already. We have almost, I think we have around 7 or 8 getting this to Category 2 here. We have 3 getting into Category 3 and 1 getting into Category 4. So that's what we have intensity guidance wise. Before we move on tropical storm game, let's go and check out what we have on the convection. As you see, it's definitely coming together. It's trying to close off a lot. We do have the center convection right there. I mean, it's definitely looks a lot better than it did this morning. Let's just say that. I mean, it's a PTC now, so it's kind of got the structure here. It just kind of needs the winds at this point. It really needs the winds. It's 35 miles an hour, so it just needs 5 more to be upgraded to a tropical storm. But I see decent amounts of convection there. There's that low pressure where all that really high amount of convection is. So that's kind of creating that high amount of vorticity, which is exactly why it is a PTC here. But yeah, there's what we have for PTC26. So here, looking at tropical storm game, and like I said, now that it's kind of stalling, this low pressure, I know it's not exactly over land, but now that it's stalling, and it was only moving 4 miles an hour this morning, it hasn't really moved much further out to sea. So it seems like as if this convection is definitely falling apart here. But is it starting to blow up once again? I mean, is it going to be our dural maximum? It could have been a dural minimum earlier the past hours, but I mean, it's definitely lost a ton of convection and a ton of structures. Could that be that low pressure really starting to interact with now to the point that it's stalling? It's still somewhat to the point where it's not far enough to be in the clear front interaction. Also, not only that, it's going to kind of, once it starts moving, it's going to kind of start moving westward, kind of southwest. So that's going to get it pretty close to land as well. So, I mean, people are saying there's a chance it could possibly get to a hurricane. I mean, it's 60 miles an hour right now. Yes, it's only 10 miles an hour off, but based on where it is right now, it's going to be super duper close to Mexico. Almost another landfall for Mexico. And if it's going to be moving that slow and that low pressure starts interacting with Mexico, it won't strengthen. That's the only thing here. Maybe if it does go way out to that part, then that's possible. But as of now, I don't think it would be a hurricane. But we still got those tropical storm warnings for the Yucatan Peninsula. And the thing is, national hurricanes are actually almost get to a landfall, and then it goes straight up north and avoid the landfall. So could it very well hit Louisiana? Could it very well hit Texas? I mean, there's definitely a threat that these areas could definitely get impacted here because of Gama. So it seems as if it's going to be avoiding a second landfall from Mexico. It really looks like it's going to go straight down south, and then it kind of just goes get pulled back up. I mean, Mexico will be lucky to avoid a second landfall, but I mean, some like they're getting spared because this thing's stalling, still bringing a ton of rain, and will continue to do that along the Bay of Campeche coast. As you do see, there they do show it going kind of straight south and then going back up. As you see, that's what I'm saying. I mean, they're kind of getting to Louisiana. Some are going crazy and going all the way to Florida. I mean, can you believe that? Gama hitting Florida when it's literally going straight down from Mexico and getting pulled up. I mean, that will be a very, very weird track. I think that most likely be kind of Texas or Louisiana at this point. I really don't see it going straight like south and going directly across the Gulf of Mexico and getting pulled all the way across. Intensity guidance, as you do see, the majority showing this weakening. Like I did say, this is most likely not going to strengthen into a hurricane. Maybe once it does that turn. Like I said, it definitely won't be a hurricane right here. But further out to next week, when it does do that turn, then it could very well become a hurricane because it's going to go to those really warm waters that PTC26 is expected to go through, and it's supposed to be Category 2, maybe even stronger. So I think it's definitely going to weaken for the next maybe 5 days, because it's going to be so close to Mexico. But after those 5 days, Gama could possibly regain strength, maybe to a high-end borderline tropical storm hurricane. Maybe a very weak Category 1. It really depends on where it goes after it kind of goes along the Bay of Campeche and goes further out to sea. So this is the new 18Z for the GFS. There they have Gama at 998, then going to 1001. And look what they have. GFS finally shows Delta. There's 1,000 millibars in 36 hours. Making landfall Cuba at 993 millibars. So possibly a borderline tropical storm or hurricane. Continue to go west-northwest. At this point, it looks like it's heading for Texas or western Louisiana. And then it does that northern turn there. 977 millibars, 984. Seems like it's weakening because of those colder waters. and then it makes landfall at 988, which is around a weak category 1 at this point, a very weak category 1 or moderate category 1. Like I said earlier in this morning's video, it definitely could strain into a hurricane, but when it gets at this point in the Gulf, right before landfall, it's going to weaken because of those 25, 26 degrees Celsius waters. The amount it's going to weaken depends on the speed. But as you see, if it does get to sub 980, it could definitely make landfall as a hurricane. But if it doesn't get past 990, and then it goes into the same areas, it won't make landfall as a hurricane here. But let's check out 10-meter winds here. What they have, they do get it possibly just getting. Those winds, doesn't seem like there's really enough, really energy there. Yeah, there it is. It gets it around maximum 70 or 80 miles an hour at that point there. Let's check out what the CMC has to show here. If it actually, there we go. CMC kind of, it's not really showing it at the strength. As you do see, it kind of shows it further inland for Cuba. And then still showing actually a landfall for Louisiana. But the thing is about the CMC, it's showing it actually going all the way back to Louisiana, like those are getting all the way back to Florida. Wow. The CMC is going all the way to where Sally made landfall. Is he going south, looping, and then going straight behind PTC26 in Delta, and then making landfall where Sally did. That happens, I'll be extremely, extremely impressed. I hope you guys did enjoy the double upload today. Do not forget to like and subscribe, and bye guys.